Hello and welcome to the 6-Star Business Podcast. It's another episode. It's episode number 5, I think, as we're clicking through. If you've listened to some of the others, great to have you back. If you haven't, why not? Just go listen to them now. And let me introduce myself. If you don't know already, I'm Pete Daly-Dixon. I'm one of your co-hosts on this here podcast.
Hello, Pete. And I am Evelyn Clark, your other friendly, happy co-host for the 6-Star Business Podcast.
G'day, Av. How are you?
I am awesome today. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really good. You know, I must say that I find myself speaking more and more in Australian accent. I'm hanging out with Aussies, possibly a tad too much for as far as my accent's concerned. Anyway, yes, really good. And had an interesting day the other day. Something about me which our listeners don't, and that is I run every day. I run at least 2 miles, 3.2 kilometers every day, and have done for a tad over 6 years. Wow. Years, 4 months, and something. And the really pissy thing is that if I hadn't broken my first run streak, I got to about a week shy of 3 years, and I woke up one morning at 4 o'clock in the morning. Which itself wasn't unusual, but I had this sinking feeling in my stomach, and I knew that I hadn't been out for a run the day before. So that ended my first run streak. I gave myself 2 weeks off. I started again, and that was over 6 years ago. No, the interesting day numerically, and you know, if you're listening to this and you're waiting for some great kind of cataclysmic announcement, it's not. It's just a tidbit of information. It was day 2, 3, 4, 5, which I just thought was quite interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, awesome. I don't know exactly how many years and months it is, but when I logged my run, it was day 2,345. So that was something. I was going to say something interesting about me, but that's something about me from the last week. What about you?
Well, I can't claim such a feat, and I must say I'm really in awe of you for doing that. And I love running, and I don't run every day. You might say, well, why not, Av? Well, like right now, it is pouring rain. And so when it's pouring rain and I wake up and I'll do some yoga and meditation, then if it's pouring rain, I choose to stay inside and I might do, like a band workout. What do you do when it's pouring rain?
I go for a run.
So what do you run in, and like how do you get past the fact that it's like sheets of water coming at an angle?
Well, a couple of things. Maybe we don't have rain like you have in Australia. That's a possibility, and it doesn't matter. I mean, I will say I prefer it. I prefer going out when it's dry. Mm-hmm. I don't mind so much if it starts raining while I'm out.
Yep.
It does take a bit of go on, just go and suck it up.
Yep.
Sometimes I'll wait a bit. I don't know if you have it in Australia, but we've got an app called Dark Sky here, which is really good for hyper local weather prediction, which is pretty good at telling you if it's raining now, when it's exactly when it's going to stop. But no, there's no excuses, and that's part of it for me. I've kind of trained myself that there's no excuses, and it's definitely had an impact in other parts of my life, professionally and personally. There's two things I learned from it most. One is, if you're going to do something, get it done now.
Yes.
Don't put it off. And the other is there's no excuses. If you commit to doing something, then if you don't do it, you're generally making excuses for it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's really impressive, and it leads to something else. I was asked a question because I think I was putting a profile in an Australian women's business network group. And one of the last question is, what's your definition of success? And it was funny, I answered this before hearing you say that, of course, but this only came up yesterday. And the way I answered it was, my definition of success is to be consistent and do the practice every day. It's not a goal that I reach, at a certain point in time in life. It's to actually do the work every day. And to me, consistency is the key to success. It's how you actually reach it. And, all credit to you, Pete, for following your own inner, drive and will to get up and say no excuses and do it every day.
No excuses. I read a great, it wasn't a quote, it was just somebody that says something that incremental is exponential.
Yeah.
And that kind of speaks to what you're saying there, the daily habit, the practice that Seth Godin talks about. We are what we habitually do. So
totally agree.
So here endeth the first lesson.
Our listeners are like, wow, we actually get more than just guests on a podcast. Well, that's what we are here for. We are here for you, right?
But speaking of guests on a podcast, who do we have this week, Av?
We have the delightful Celia Swales and the wonderful David Hubbard, two people who hail from quite different areas. You'll hear in this conversation what comes up, but they come at the question about what makes a 6-star business from different angles, but they kind of bring it together in a moot point sort of agreement. And it was one of these fascinating conversations that enabled us to peel back the layers of the onion. Yeah.
It never ceases to amaze me where the conversation goes. And if you're at this episode and you have listened to the others and you think that you're getting an idea of what it means to have a 6-star business, then, as Av likes to say, sit in, strap on your seatbelt, because there's plenty more yet to come from the minds of Celia Swales and David Hubbard. Enjoy. Here we go. We are live again with another episode of the 6-Star Business Podcast. Great to be with you. I'm one of your co-hosts, Pete Daly-Dixon, and I'm joined by my other one,
Aveline Clark.
Aveline Clark, how are you, Av?
I'm great, thank you. How are you, Pete?
Yeah, good. You're looking kind of like you're a bit cold, which is unusual.
Yes. There's rain and wind and cold air outside and the house.
Welcome to my world. And today we are joined by our friends and fellow guests on the podcast, Celia Swales and David Hubbard. G'day, guys.
Hello.
So just to kick off, by way of giving our listeners an insight into who's joining us today, Celia, who are you? Where are you calling from? Who do you serve? What's your business? Kind of just in 30 seconds. No, I'm only joking. Just a couple of minutes. Give us an insight into Celia Swales. But a bit of personal insight as well always helps, just to see the person behind the professional.
Oh dear, that means personal revelations are required. Okay. So I am Celia Swales, and I am calling from the sunny climes of Melbourne in Australia, where we hit 23 today, which is way more than where Avalon is. And so I hesitate to put labels on myself because I love to dabble in as many things as I can possibly dabble, and I'm a lover of learning, so always looking for what's next. But at the moment, I stick the label of people and change consultant on myself, and I want to work with leaders who are wanting to get more out of their people. So looking at how do we get better business outcomes from working with leadership and people and teams and change. So that's the world I inhabit when I have my working hat on. Outside of that, I actually have a creative life. So I have not quite a side gig because I'm not sure I earn any money out of it, but I do clay sculpture, and so I dabble in trying to create 3D objects out of clay.
I never knew that. That's brilliant.
Yes, it's good fun. Very grounding.
David, what about you? Same questions, I guess.
Yeah, sure. I'm David, and I'm ringing in from Newcastle in the Hunter Valley, Australia. I guess what I'm into is, my business background is virtual CFOs and business transformation. And what we're doing is working in the we're working with not-for-profits. And what we would like as an outcome is for those businesses to be really efficient and be able to help more people in the community. Apart from my business background, I've travelled a fair bit around different countries. I spent 4 years in the UK, so I know what the weather's like over there, and it's 8 degrees is generally a good day. I was there for one summer, and I think the sun came out for one day, and that was the day we said, no, we'll get our chores done inside and we'll go out and enjoy ourselves tomorrow. Tomorrow never came.
Oh dear. Well, it's great to have you with us, and I kind of get a sense from your introductions there that the contributions you're going to have to the conversation that Avril and I have started around 6-star business will be interesting and valuable, seeing as you both touched on sort of business transformation there. But what I'd like to get out, just kind of get the ball rolling, is what is it about the concept of 6-star business that you heard either from Av or from me that made you kind of put your hand up and say, yeah, I kind of want to get involved in that. I want to kind of take part in that conversation. So that's just an open conversation, David or Celia, to either of you.
I guess because Celia's on mute, I will.
Sorry, my phone was ringing, so I turned myself on mute. So you can start.
Yeah, what interested me was, it is interesting to me because I focus on the customer and I focus on why we're in business doing what we do. It's really interesting because there's so many people in business for different reasons. And I was interested to have the conversation around, it's not always large corporates that are 6-star. There's some boutique, smaller corporates that you could consider 6-star. So I was interested in joining that conversation, and I've been in different types of businesses with different cultures, and I was interested in talking to you more about that.
Cool.
Yeah.
What about you, Celia?
Yeah, I guess I when I first read as the 6-star, I was like, well, what would make a business worthy of a 6-star? That was kind of my curiosity, and I think the answer would be different for a lot of people. So it's fun to have a conversation around that. And I guess the interest for me at the moment is that, there's been a whole lot of experience that we've had where we can now no longer live with the idea that the future is kind of plannable in a linear sense. And so our engagement with the world needs to be from a kind of leaning into what is emerging. And I think for me, that's kind of what makes things interesting in terms of another element to business is about how do you actually engage in this ongoing conversation leaning forward, and that is with your customer and with the environment that you're in, as well as with the people who are on board with you, and strive. So for me, that's kind of an interesting in the context of where the world is at the moment.
Thank you, Celia. That's really interesting. And Pete, we haven't had anyone kind of mention the current state of the world based on, the last 12 months and how that relates to a 6-star business. So again, that's another fabulous way to start looking at this. So what's shifted then? Would you like to have a go at answering that?
Yeah, look, I guess because of the leaders that I am working with, I don't know whether things were as certain and as sure and as plannable as they thought they were, but they had the illusion of that. And I think what's happened for many of them is an understanding that, someone said to me last year, if we thought we were going to put our entire business online, and we would have a 2-year time frame to do this, and we had like 3 weeks to get 7,000 people working from home, and we did it. And we had to bypass our risk procedures, and we had to bypass all of the things that we put in place to deal with a plannable future. And so for me, that idea has that sort of shaking of the foundations and realization that you can actually maybe the future could be different and could be different quite quickly, and you could perhaps respond differently and engage differently, can be both a terrifying and anxiety producing thing for leaders, but also an exciting thing for leaders. And so that for me is kind of, I think, there's lots of day-to-day stuff that shifted for people, but I think that's a big one for people around what's possible, but also what needs to be different, what needs to look different.
Can I also agree 100% with that, Celia? In the disability space that we operate, we've been talking to organisations for a number of years around efficiencies, how can they service more people. And when COVID hit, a lot of our organisations were dealing with kids and with school age, and the schools were shut down, and they couldn't continue delivering services. So they came up with ways that they could deliver their services, which a lot of it was online and video. And we'd been talking to them about it for years, and it took them about 2 or 3 months to actually implement it, and it wasn't as bad as what they imagined it would be. So I agree 100% that it saved a lot of organisations a 2-year period to get these things happening straight away in this environment.
There's a whole there's a lot of ways this conversation can go, Evelyn, but I kind of want to be steered by you. You're the expert from our side of the table. What's kind of coming up for you?
2 things. My mind was saying, well, okay, how does that learning and the learning of their innate skills to survive and evolve really quickly and deliver a service to provide needs, how does that knowledge and that new learning add to their ability to be a 6-star business? And the other thing that was on my mind was, given what businesses have gone through and the 2 examples you guys just gave us, who would have been a 6-star business in the last 12 months? How would you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. And I think I think for me that's why this came up for me as the idea of a 6-star business, is that conversation on the edge of the business is for me that ever evolving, ever questioning, ever what else, but with a really core understanding of what is my business, what is my core business. So staying true to that piece, but this kind of edginess that's always looking for what else is there is I guess where I'm thinking that 6-star may come, whether that be in a social space or in an technological space or an environmental space, but that whatever your business is, where are you stretching to, and where is the interface with the world that you're carrying on this ongoing conversation, I guess, and so that kind of, and that's what we've learned. I think there's going back to, I guess, the first point that you made there, is I think there's a real capability of humans to go, well, that was that, and this is now, and we're back to the new normal, and so I can relax again and go back to my usual ways of operating and say that it's going to take me 2 years to do something like that. So and as an example of someone of a business, there's a business here whose name is not going to come to me, but there was a business here whose core business was in stage productions, which fell over. They now make office furniture. Assembly, quick, easy assembling office furniture, and they've created a whole new business line for themselves, and they're back to doing staging stuff, but they are also doing this other. So they've created a whole new product line just with this conversation around where are we.
And did you ever hear a similar thing happening out of Newcastle with a distillery? And I'm sure this happened quite across the alcohol industry, is that they started to make hand sanitizer. It wasn't medical grade, but they changed their business model and actually marketed it in a really trendy way, that the hand sanitizers were in their branded bottles, and it was great. That was one way, and I think to be 6-star in that space at that time, because I think that does change. It's looking at innovative ways to meet the demand of your customers, and also bring your staff, like keep that staff culture front of mind as well. So they feel, so they still are able to deliver the services that they're there to deliver, or make the products that they're there to make. Because whatever's happening in the environment and the business is also happening to them outside of the business as well. So to keep that momentum up, that innovation happening, that quality service delivery, it takes a lot of attention from the organisation to maintain that during these changing times.
So do you think, therefore, David, it would have been harder for businesses to achieve that simply because their energy and focus was on innovation, survival, adapting to all the market changing needs, and not having the capacity to then focus on their customer as much as previously? So
yeah,
I think that would have been hard.
Yeah, absolutely agree that their attention would have been on that innovation, and would have been, for the very early stage, because there were so many unknowns, it was survival mode for a lot of organisations, especially before JobKeeper came out, before the government announced that sort of security for some of the organisations. People were just in the survival mode. And then when there was lockdown and things happening around the world, there was so much unknown that some organisations didn't know if they still had customers. So to try and reinvent themselves to either meet another demand. In some cases, there were some organisations with too much demand. They couldn't supply enough. So they were still in survival mode. How are they going to survive in these times? not being able to get the product or not being able to distribute it. So it was challenging, yeah.
So, but that's a good, I guess that's a good curiosity then around a 6-star business, because in some of those stories, you're right, the customer has completely changed, hasn't it? And so I guess inherently when you think of a 6-star business, you'd think that they would actually be nurturing and having greater understanding of their customer. But in these circumstances, people have gone, well, our customer is gone, so we're going to go over here and create a new customer. And so the concentration is on the vehicle itself rather than the customer.
And when you say vehicle, you mean product?
I suppose the business itself. So we have an entity here that's got a set of capabilities, that's got a bunch of people, that's got, these mechanisms. How do we use that differently? Where's another market we can turn that to and send it off down that track because that customer has disappeared? So it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Is that, would a 6-star business then go back to their original market, or what? That's a curiosity.
So if there's one thing that we've learned for the last 12 months is that our lives can be changed by things which we had no understanding of before. So there's been a few words that have come up over the last few minutes: to strive, stretch, innovate. So if we take all that together, you say that, well, okay, people's over the last 12 months, a lot of companies' customers have changed. Are there principles of a 6-star business which can which can be equally just applied one way, or I'm not articulating my question, but that's why I've got Av with me, because she so often knows what's going on in my head again. But do you know what I mean? It's like, or if our customers change, does that mean that all bets are off and we've just got to go back to square one and we've got to build up a 6-star business from there? That's what I'm interested in. Is there a mindset of a 6-star business? And I'm wondering whether there's clues in those words that you've used there, like strive, stretch, innovate. Whether that mindset actually is the mindset of a 6-star business, because they're always seeking to do more. I don't know. What do you think? That wasn't a rhetorical question.
Well, we're all nodding. So.
Yeah. I actually saw in the industry that we're working in, the organisations that we're talking about that using the language of stretching themselves, being innovative, really looking after their staff so that they could grow in these times and continue servicing their clients, they didn't forget about their core business. They actually, believe it or not, opened up more opportunities to them for themselves. For example, they went online, so their market base just expanded right across Australia. If it's delivering therapy to kids, because the market, there was no borders to it. They continued looking after their base within their own region, communication, talking to families on the phone and things like that, depending on their families' advances in technology. But suddenly they've got opportunity to reach different corners of Australia, and let's say for other businesses, different corners of the world that they wouldn't have thought of if things were the way they were before.
Yeah, and I think while you were saying you were struggling to articulate that, Pete, I think you've done a really good job in that respect. And I was just reflecting on, has been a lot in recent years about the growth mindset, about that idea that if you are that striving and the growth mindset is a healthy and a useful way of looking at the world. And so that application of, I guess, the growth mindset into a business, and what I guess David was just describing then is the capacity to throw away the idea of the barriers and see the opportunity, which is almost that, growth mindset in action at a business level. So perhaps you're right in that. In the principle is that regardless of what circumstance a business finds itself in, that the leaders and the business itself has a culture of saying what else and approaching things from an abundance perspective and a what could be perspective.
And I think that one of the differences, it quickly moves out of the survival and it focuses on that growth mindset.
Okay, so imagine that all the smart, flexible, dynamic business owners who have a growth mindset operated that way over the last 12 months. What distinguishes then the 5-star from the 6-star? So maybe the question to begin with is, what would a 5-star business look like, right? So we're talking about innovation and changing, having that culture of what else. How does that translate to the experience of customers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so what does that look like in terms of a 5-star experience?
Well, I think in terms of a customer perspective, the 5-star experience is where, I suppose, as you move forward, each time you're confronted with something that is better than what you expected and is actually able to anticipate your needs and I guess, create that experience where you are fulfilled in whatever it is that interaction is around. For me, then a 6-star business would be one that moves beyond that into a kind of co-creation, either co-creation or where someone is actually delivering something you didn't even know you needed, and not from that evil marketing perspective. Says me showing my colours, but that kind of where you really desire this pizza, don't you? As opposed to, did you not even know that this is something that could delight you, could excite you about things? So I think that co-creation piece might be one of the things, and then the other side of it might be about dreaming up.
Yeah, I think
I'll say a bit more.
I was going to say,
Go on, David.
I think the 6-star, I don't know how to articulate this, but the 6-star organisation were doing more than just delivering a service at the time, and a good service, meeting the needs and expectations. They were actually inspiring their customers as well, and not just adding value to the service, but actually enriching their lives during these times. If we think specifically about the last 12 months. So, yeah, just a little bit different than delivering service and business. It was actually, I felt it was a little bit more focused on not just delivering the service, but making sure the customer was okay as well.
Do you have any examples, any personal examples or?
Yeah, I was. I've had people contact me that I'd been in business before that I hadn't spoken to for a long time, and they were also looking for business opportunities and things like that, as well as asking how is your business? How are you going? How are your staff? And what I found through that is there was a lot more collaboration. There was a lot more businesses working with other businesses to help each other. And the ultimate goal was to continue delivering services and meeting the expectations of customers, but also making sure the business network was strong. So we all were supporting each other at the same time. We're all faced with similar issues.
Yep. Yeah, I was just thinking about a really micro example. So you've given a great kind of inter-business example, but I had a great example when I was dealing with a bank of all things. It was a smaller bank, but I had rung to sort something out that hadn't been working, and the guy on the end of the phone actually, asked me how I was, and we had a chat, and then he finished the business, and he said, if you are ever struggling, don't hesitate to give me a call and we'll just have a chat. And I just thought, how lovely is that? That's just not something that you would expect a bank person on a call center in a bank would ever say.
Here's my question, Celia. Did you believe him? Was it sincere?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, he was. He was actually. Yes, because he met me in that kind of sincerity place. So yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things that we did, which I like to give back to organisations, but it was really big at this time. There was a program that my staff went through called the LIFT project, and it was about mental health and well-being, sort of online. And we did that even before COVID. So what I did was I knew that a lot of the frontline disability workers who are our clients would get a lot out of that type of course. So we sponsored about 20 people in each, of our nominated organisations, the ones that had been with us for a long time, as a bit of give back. In addition to, we were continuing delivering service to these guys. And some of the feedback that came from the frontline workforce was that it couldn't have come at a better time, and they were going through a lot that the organisation that they were working for couldn't necessarily support them with. And this gesture of giving back to the organisations, because I wanted them to keep their spirits up and I wanted them to continue delivering good services to their community, it gave them a little bit more of it rejuvenated some of their spirit to continue delivering great services and not worry too much. And I think that's just an example of what a lot of other organisations did with their customers as well.
So it sounds like from listening to you give that example, that a 6-star business is one that actually sees itself as a member of a community within which it's based as well.
I think so, yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
And both of your examples that you gave there, they touch on something that came up in an earlier conversation about care. There's an element of care in the banker talking to you, Celia, and David. There's an element of your care for the frontline workers in those organizations. And how do you teach that? I mean, are people caring individuals or not? And if they're not, does a business have any hope in hell of becoming 6-star business if that isn't there?
I think so. I actually this afternoon was just doing some planning for a service that is wanting to look to the future and wants to future-proof itself, which is a lovely aspiration. So we've been spending a bit of time around that. And one of the things that we had as a maxim is that we're a bunch of imperfect human beings doing work with a bunch of imperfect human beings. And out of that conversation came the idea that people's approach to planning and then delivery would be very different to one where it was about getting it right or having that war with a customer. The customer is either right or wrong and I have to prove they're right or wrong, that sort of, rather than we're a bunch of human beings, settled a bit to David's point before, sitting in a community who are having a crack at making a difference here with you. Yeah.
And I think when you start to talk about care, we're starting to talk about the organisation's culture. And it makes a difference if there's one person that cares, but the rest of the culture or the rest of the people don't really bring that care to what they're doing, then you're not going to get that outcome. You're not going to get that 6-star type of business. So it's important that if care is part of that 6-star business, is to, I think, act in the leadership role to make sure that the organisation is on board with the same care factor, and it creates that culture which then would elevate the organisation into that next level 6-star type of business.
And it's interesting, the focus on culture. I was just looking at a study that was done in Germany looking at businesses with the psychological trust. So the capacity, a culture internally where people can raise what might be unpopular elsewhere and have their conversations. And the outcome of that study was that people had greater return on assets in a longitudinal perspective and had greater achievement of reaching their goals. So if you look at that from a 6-star business perspective, that the internal culture is also an element of that capacity to be in business and to thrive in business. Sorry, Aveline, I think I was just about to cut you off.
No, that's fine. I love everything that's being shared here, and I don't like stopping the flow at all, but I have the care thing. And then what David said, and it even comes into that research. So my question is, okay, so if care is a critical part of the culture, and David, you said it's got to come from the top. So where does it start?
Where and how?
Where and how?
I think it starts at the top, leadership team, the person, the founding people of the business. In a corporate governance, it's got to include the people on the board that's governing the organisation. But more importantly, the leadership team and the leaders should, I think, they should act out that care factor. They should live that care factor. So I guess teaching other people in the organisation about why it's important and why it's part of their culture.
I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with you. I think, though, as well as that, I meet a lot of people who work in very, very large organisations and do not get a sense of care from the infrastructure around them. And the challenge that I throw to them is that care starts kind of with you. So you can actually create, and as you say, a role model can have powerful effect in organisations. So a part of a business can actually still make a stand, so to speak, even when perhaps the other parts of the business are not demonstrating it. And I only say that from a perspective of, if your top leadership or your leadership in your business, if you're in a larger organisation, isn't articulating that, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and just go, all bets are off. Still strive for that, to bring that care in wherever you are.
I mean, it does raise an interesting question, though. That in my professional career, I've tended to work in smaller companies, and with people that I'm on first name terms with, and know the names of their wives and kids, and that it's very easy to care in that environment, because it's literally personal, in that environment. What this is a question that has always intrigued me, is like, what happens to businesses, because they're still made up of humans. There's 7 humans in a small 7-man business, and there's 7,000 humans in a 7,000-man business. But what happens to just leach that kind of human care, kind of all the things that we've been talking about? What happens, and how can we stop it? Because it seems to me there's enough commonality, there's a thread in the conversation that's been started here, that's ongoing, that's the key.
But
I can see how I can see how it can be like quite easy to affect inside a small company, but what about these large companies?
So before these guys answer, I just want to quickly say something, Pete. Your question makes me think you assume that care is there in the beginning, or that everybody cares at the beginning of the formation of a company and the running of a company. That's my
Yeah, I
comment.
guess it does. Yeah.
Over to you guys.
Not everyone does care. I've learned the hard way. Like part of it is finding the right people in your company that have a similar values and culture, that maybe not everything, but they will follow that leadership. But if they can just do a function and there's an output, but not have that care factor, it's not going to line up, and your company will suffer from that, which is amplified if you're in a 7,000 employee company. To find the right fit for every person in that company to have that care factor, it's unlikely that everyone will have the whole values, but they might have some values that should be aligned with that overall company value and culture. I've worked for some big organizations before, and not in leadership roles, maybe in project management roles, but as an employee with some of the other employees. Look, if your leadership team are not acting what they're saying, and they're misaligned with their values, they're saying you need to be like this, but they're not, then that's not going to resonate very well in the company to create this care factor. So it does have to start with, or come from the leadership team, because other people will follow that leadership if they're good leaders and their values line up. There's lots of ifs, I guess, but if you find that the employees are not aligned, do you keep them there, or can you work on them? There must be some things to be that 6-star organization. And Celia, you've probably got lots of examples around how to line up employees, with the organization, because they might be good people, but other things may have happened. But then there's also people that just don't fit that role and may not fit your organization and need to go somewhere where they do fit.
And that's a beautiful example of, I think, why lots of businesses come back to their recruitment processes, because I often end up with people saying, "Can you help me with this person? They're good at their job, but." And the but piece is all of the behavioural stuff, and that's happened more and more and more throughout my career. And so I think there's a greater awareness now that behavioural piece, the way people operate, what they focus on, what they turn their attention to, how they manage their impact on others, the wake that they leave behind, are critical to creating the climate with which you will either be productive or not productive, and be, a customer-oriented organisation or a 6-star business. And so I think there's a lot more attention being paid to that side of things. And I think one of the greatest things that works against a caring organisation is anxiety. And anxiety is like a virus through a business. If there are people feeling anxious, then it goes right through a business. And so the counteract is, and I think it's why there's focus on communication and the focus on psychological safety and all of that is now is having a huge kind of and well-being is having a huge focus, is because if you can create an environment where you can actually have those conversations and allow people to raise issues, or to say, I'm not coping, or to do those sorts of things, then you can counteract anxiety, which leads people down to transactional behaviours and just doing their job. I'm just here to do this, or I'm just a such and such, as opposed to the kind of people what we're talking about in a 6-star business who goes, I work for this place and this is what we do,
Right. I love that metaphor of the wake that we leave behind.
Yeah.
That's stupendous.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And look, we're all capable of the good, bad, and the ugly, as I say. So we're all capable of living nice, pretty wakes. We're all capable in our worst selves and on our baddest days of living lumpy, bumpy wakes. But if you pay attention to them, then you can fix them up too.
Evelyn, have you got any last thoughts or questions as we kind of think about wrapping up this particular conversation?
So, Celia, both yourself and David have spoken a lot about the internal culture and the people of an organisation that help them be 6-star. What about the customers? As in, should an organisation first focus on the internal staff before they focus on the experience of the customer? What comes first?
I think it's a both conversation. So the work I was just talking about before in terms of service, service redesign, the challenge that we're throwing out is how to get the customers in the conversation. So how do we actually bring those customers into the conversation and have it together? And so I guess that's it's probably critical in a service delivery world, and I've spent a lot of my career in disability, so I kind of have that experience as well, where you actually if you really want to deliver, then you actually have to be in conversation with your customers. So I think if you put them all in the same room, or you're at least marrying that data as you work together about areas for improvement or delivery or business success or what community are we in, if you're in conversation outside of your system, you will be a closed system is a dying system. So for me, that interaction is critical. So for me, customers are actually part of it. And if you start to crystal ball what a customer wants, that's when you're going to start to go a bit pear-shaped.
Yeah, I think agree. It's all about engaging that customer. So, and there's a number of different ways that we're engaging the customer on different levels. There's the business level. There's levels of a more personal type of relationship when we are interacting with them, and just engaging them as to what's going on in the business, what's going on in their business, and what are the outcomes that we're both trying to achieve. And I think engaging them through these times, it really elevates the outcome for all of us. I was going to say in one aspect, my customers, the businesses, also have customers, which is often in many businesses. So we're not just engaging my direct customer, it's how are your customers as well. So there's a bit of a chain of engagement.
I really appreciate and I'm grateful for those perspectives, especially the deeper relationships, understanding people on a more personal level, having them part of your system, like you said, Celia, about any closed system is a dying system. So ensuring that the customers are engaged in those processes alongside the business as you're evolving and innovating is really key. So it's a joint effort, really.
Yep.
It shouldn't be done in isolation of the customer, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. There's a fellow called David White who's a poet that goes into business organisations and works with kind of really challenging issues. I don't know whether you've ever come across him, but he tells this lovely story as a young man married, and his wife said, we need to have a conversation, and he has the conversation. And then about 3 weeks later, she says, I'd like to have a conversation. And he's like, I thought we had the conversation. And he spent endless hours trying to figure out how to have the right conversation that would do away with the need to have the conversation. And he said when he got older, he realized that the conversation is the relationship. And so I guess for me, that idea of if you're stopping to talk to you. If you're not talking to your staff, or you're not talking to your customer, or you're not talking to your community, then you don't have a relationship with them. And so it's that lovely idea of every conversation we have creates the relationship.
I love that. And I can't think of any better way to kind of wrap up this particular conversation, which has deepened the relationships between all of us. Quite in a way, quite moving at the end there. It's really quite profound and an important part of what we're talking about. So on behalf of Av and myself, Celia, David, thank you so much for joining us on this. Really, for me, quite a fascinating journey, and one of the things that I'm finding so exciting about it is that we're not just talking about the same things every time. It's like there are just so many nuances and aspects. I mean, there are some commonalities. For example, Celia, psychological safety came up for the first time in the last episode. You won't be surprised to hear that was with Jeff Wade.
Yeah.
But I thought he was the only one in the whole world that talked about psychological safety. I'm only joking. So, but really, really interesting to hear that come up as well. And there are themes, but just sort of seeing these different sort of light and shade of this thing about a 6-star business is really, really fascinating and interesting. And I can't wait to get it out to the world. We're recording the first 6 episodes, and we'll let you know when it goes live and how you can contribute and benefit from the launch. We'll keep in touch with you. But for now, it's good night from her and goodbye from me.
Thank you. Thank you, Celia.
See you all again.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Cool.
Another cracker.
Another cracker. It surprises me every episode, Pete, that they're all different, aren't they? It's like going into an ice cream shop and choosing a new flavor, but the flavors always change. You never get bored because there's so much to choose from. They surprised me. I knew a little bit about them individually before we came together, and I just love what they brought to the table around, the conversation being the relationship, and continuing to have a conversation, to converse, to connect, to engage, to inspire, enrich.
Absolutely. I loved Celia's story about that person saying, "Oh, I had that conversation. I didn't think I needed to have it again." I can't remember exactly.
Newlyweds, the husband, they've recently been married.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. It's a good reminder. And just the importance of care. It's care, kindness. These words are now starting to. We're 4 or 5 episodes in, and starting to hear commonality of expression and terminology around what makes a 6-star business. Does just a great conversation again. Just a privilege to be part of it, and so many. If you have the ear to listen, there is a nugget in every one of these conversations, and any one of the nuggets can be transformative in your business and your life. So if you don't think you got one, then just go back and listen, because it's there buried somewhere, but I'm sure you did.
And in your words from, I think it was last episode or the one before, Pete, at the end of these, you should not be saying, what can I apply in my business? The question is, how can I? Because there's got to be something that you've learned from this that you can pull out and then ask, how can I do this in my business? So, I think, in terms of what you can do next, especially when it comes to caring, this is all about the journey. This is about the journey that your customer goes on, and how your employees or your staff engage with the customer, and you engage with your customer. So it's all interrelated. And for me, I think it's great that we have this next step tool for those businesses that want to take that next step and see how they can bring that care, that conversation more to life. So that the link to the scorecard is in the show notes below, and we highly recommend you click on that and fill that out.
Yeah, great. So thanks for that, and thanks for this, and we'll be back same time, same place next week, I guess, with another episode of the 6-Star Business Podcast. Until then, it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me. Have a great week.